Hey guys, this is Eddie the Magic Monk. Welcome to another Visual Basic Programming tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to be writing our own functions. If you are not sure what functions are, you should probably watch my other tutorial video that teaches you the concept behind functions, which I'll link to at the bottom of this video, so you can have a look. If you have no idea what functions are, but if you've been following the Visual Basic Programming tutorials until now, you've probably already used a few functions, except you didn't know that they were functions. Anyway, so we're going to create a new project, and the new project we're going to be, you can just name it whatever you like. I'm just going to call it Function Writer as my application. It's a Windows form application. Click OK. And all we need for this application is a button and a text box. And since this is only a tutorial, we won't worry too much about naming these buttons, but for the text box I want it to be multi-line, right? And I want to make the size a bit bigger. So basically the title of this form, the application is going to be called word counter. Basically don't change the name, change the text. We're going to call it word counter. And basically what it's going to do is I'm going to type some words in the text box, and when I click the button 1, it's going to pop up with a message box telling me how many words I've entered in my program. And so the way we're going to program this differently is we're actually going to write a function that does that for us, instead of just some code inside the button. Okay, so we're going to double click on the form, and notice how right now we don't have any procedures in the form, and we're going to create our own function. So the function is going to be called private function word counter, and so that's the name of the function, word counter. And so basically the input of our function, I'll explain why I'm typing this in a second. The input, I'm gonna call it text, and the input is gonna be a string, and my output is gonna be an integer. And so basically, before I write this, before I go in detail in coding the function, I'll just teach you guys how to use this function. So basically, when I press this button, so I'm going to double click on button 1. So when button 1 is clicked, basically what's going to happen is I'm going to use the word counter function that I'm defining right now, and the input of this word counter function is going to be whatever I have typed in text box 1. So text box 1 dot text. So I'm gonna pass the value of my textbox1.text, which is what by val means. What by val means is it's gonna get the value of the input rather than the object itself. So this fetches the value inside this whatever the input it is, and it's going to store it in the text variable, which we're going to refer to inside our function. And as you can see, the input is a string, And what is the output going to be? The output is going to be an integer, which I'm going to report in a message box. So basically what's going to happen is when I run this function, the input is textbox1.text, and it's going to count how many words are in my text box, and then it's going to output the number of words, which I'm going to then put I'll output that on the screen inside a message box. Okay, so here's how the word counter function is going to work. I'm gonna start programming the word counter function, and we need a few variables. The first variable is going to be letter, and you will see what this is for soon. And I'm also going to have actually I'll just define these variables first, and then I will explain what they mean in a second. Okay, so I have 4 variables, and the first thing I want to do is I'm going to set up an if statement. So I'm going to say if the input, which is text, so if the input here for my function, if text dot length is bigger than 0. So text dot length, what does that mean? So since it's a string, since the object is a string, it's gonna have a property called length. That means how long is the string, how many characters are there in the string. If the number of characters is bigger than 0, so in other words, if the string is not empty, then we're gonna run these instructions. Okay, the next thing we're gonna use is the for loop. So you should know what for loops are by now. Basically, we're gonna repeat a set of instructions a certain amount of times. So for I equals 0. So I we have already declared previously as an integer. So I is just a container we're going to use for the for loop. For I equals 0 to text dot length minus 1. So what does that mean? Basically, we're going to repeat this set of instructions that I'm about to type inside the for loop the same number of times as however long text dot length, however long the input variable is for our function. So for example, if I type 100 words in the text box, then this set of instructions will be repeated 100 times. So you can either type for I equals 1 to text dot length, or you can type for I equals 0 to text dot length minus 1. That'll repeat these instructions the same number of times, except when we are referring to characters in the text text box, the first character is actually indexed with the number 0. So that's why we got to start with 0. You'll see in a second. So basically, I'm going to store whatever character, text dot character, in the ith position. So the character in the ith position in the text box, in my string input, is going to be assigned to the variable letter. Okay, so the letter variable, which I have just declared before, is a character variable, which means it can only store one. It can only store one character, and so whatever is inside the string variable at the ith position is going to be stored inside my letter variable. And what's going to happen is if this letter variable is a space, so is a space, which means there must be a new word, right? Because every time you type another word, you're going to press the space bar. So if there's a space, then my word count variable is going to increase by 1. Oops. Is going to increase by 1. And then after the for loop is executed the same number of times as the text, as the number of words inside the text input, I'm going to return the word count variable as output for my function. So hang on a second, I'll just type that here. Return word count as the function. So if you run this program, you'll see that whatever you type in the text box, so for example, hello, this is Edward. If you press button 1 now, it spits out 3. Even though I have typed 4 words, it'll spit out 3. And if you try it again, if I type, let's say, 6 words, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you type 7 words, it spits out 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to return word count plus 1. And what that does is when I type in however many words, it's going to tell me that in the correct number. Okay, so hopefully you guys have an idea of how to write your own function. So we've created the word counter function, and we have used the word counter function to accept some input. The input is the text inside the text box, and the output of the function is how many words are in the text box. So every function has an input and an output. So to call the function, we type the name of the function, we type bracket, we type the input inside the bracket, and so as you can see here is actually a function inside a function, right? Because message box is a function as well, where it takes the input and it outputs the message to the screen. Okay, I hope this video is not too confusing. Hope you have some idea of what functions are and how to write your own function. If you're still confused, we will explain that further in the next video. Okay, thanks for watching. See you next time.